Hey everybody, this is your favorite realtor Norm, and I'm coming to you today with a powerful presentation from my good friend Sam Richardson over at It's All Good. Sam, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me today. Appreciate it, man. You are my favorite realtor.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I've learned so much from working with you and being part of your business and close to your team over the years. I wonder if you could just share a little bit about what you do and everything that you're involved in.
Yeah, of course. So as you know, I got into the industry, do junk removal. You can see behind me here, this is our one of our company trucks and the brand. Got into it because I had to downsize my own dad's estate. So got thrown into that world, as I think a lot of people who may be listening here have had to do. So, we got that call. We spent the better part of a year being a primary caretaker for dad, and ended up inevitably passed away. I had to downsize the estate myself. That led me to trying to figure out what did I want to do after I got done with that whole experience. It was the better part of a year and a half for me, for my life. Moved back out to Northern Virginia, where I'd been spending some time, and decided that I was going to buy a pickup truck and help people do what I had just got done doing. So that is kind of how I got thrown into what we do now. Fast forward, that was about a decade ago. So that we got started in 2016. Now we have 5 of these big old trucks here, a team of about 14 people, and we are helping anywhere from 2,000 to 2,500 clients a year with everything from estate cleanouts to just typical, getting rid of anything that they don't want inside of a home or office or goods.
Thank you. I knew you did it all. And you mentioned estate cleanouts. How often are you working with folks that have inherited property or downsizing?
Weekly basis. What's interesting, and I know that you know this about this industry, right, about working with anybody who's managing an estate, is that it's not really seasonal. A lot of us, when we choose to buy or sell a house, I think happens a lot in the spring and summer. But when it comes to estates, you never know when you're gonna have something like that fall in your lap, and it doesn't always make sense. So it really is year round. We're dealing with one this week, and it's a pretty regular situation for us. I would say on a weekly basis. Sometimes we have multiple ones a week, and it's really what we kind of built our business around, because it was very near and dear to me, having to gone through that experience. It's something that I love helping people go through.
Right. I know you bring a personal touch to your clients and to the work you do. Are you cleaning out the entire home or just a room, or how does that look?
Yeah, another really great question. I mean, the tricky part is that inside of a house, especially when you've inherited an estate, I know you know this extremely well. You're doing the walkthroughs. People, I still had personal memory attached to almost everything. I was, you're trying to walk through a house, and even if you're just there to look at a property, everything's like, hey, oh man, yeah, I want to know. I don't know what I'm going to do with that chair, right? You have these moments of pause where, our clients will sit there and say, it's like a mini moment of memories. And they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that chair. I love that chair. I've sat in that chair my whole life. I don't know what I'm, and it's like, I totally understand, so we do the entire removal, meaning the house has to usually go on the market, very often does. And so, or it's going to be rented out, and everything's got to go. So we go through and we try to itemize, all of the things that are going to be slated for donation, condition wise. And then we try to make sure that all the items that maybe aren't donatable are going to be recycled or have some sort of sustainable disposal. And then the last part really is that there ends up being stuff that is just junk, right? Like think about the basements that have flooded sometime throughout the years. And the family just never, especially when you're talking about aging parents or maybe people who have entered into office care properties, and all the things inside of them tend to get let go, right? It's just natural. Yeah. And so sometimes there are just things, whether it's been in the attic, going through the ups and downs of winter and summer, and everything just basically disintegrates when you touch it. It's just got to be disposed of, or all the stuff in the basement. We're really good at just getting all of that out of there, but making sure stuff that does stand a chance at a second life, especially things that are meaningful to people, that we have the resources and the places to take it where it can be reused or reused.
I love that. So they're not just going maybe to trash, you're looking at recondition, reuse, recycle options as well. And as you're talking about, this sounds pretty involved with your work. Are you familiar with working alongside executors, heirs, and attorneys? I imagine you deal with those folks on a regular basis.
Exactly. So executors, definitely, oftentimes, especially since a lot of the executors are the ones that are responsible for a lot of the bookkeeping and the affairs of the estate. So they're often the ones who are writing the checks or making sure that everything is paid and fair and all that kind of thing. So we often are explaining and trying to connect with them to make sure they understand the full process of what we're doing so that they're managing the estate well. And then of course that often is either directly through or also in tandem with a estate attorney, the family's attorney, who's helping them with the affairs of the estate as well. And in both cases, one of the reasons why we built our business around this is because one of the things we do really well is communication. So we're very good at, hey, we found these things, or hey, we set some stuff aside, or, we found some things in the house we thought you may want to know about this. So we've got really high integrity, and that's what we hire off of, because
I think you're talking about finding valuables or maybe cash.
Exactly. Yeah. So whether it's, we've found just about everything, right? Imagine as an individual like myself having to go in and literally thumb through every single thing in a home. It's overwhelming. It oftentimes does get overlooked, and we're literally getting rid of, in most cases, everything, right? So we have found cash in between books before. I found, $20,000 one time in a vase that was buried underneath a plant. Like the plant was in there, but I was like, this is heavier than a normal plant. So we really do try to go do our due diligence and make sure that we find the things that the family would appreciate.
Thank you for sharing that. That brings up a good question. When you do find a valuable item like cash or jewelry, do you stop and notify the executor, like with a phone call? Or once someone hires you, are you checking in every day? What does that look like?
Yeah, of course. Well, I will preface by saying that projects don't have to be one day. A lot of times the pace is often a little slower, especially when the family members are still involved in the process of kind of downsizing the estate. However, often when adult heirs, or by the time it gets to us, the family members are just trying to get the property sold. In that case, it usually is a one-day event. So that being said, there's a lot going on that day. We usually have anywhere from teams of 6 to 12 people inside the house at one time. And if we find something such as cash, we often find firearms. I think a lot of us have old firearms in our families that are maybe valuable to our families. Anytime we come across firearms, jewelry, anything that's just cash, we always, kind of have a moment where everybody pauses. Hey, everyone out of the room. Let's bring the beneficiary or whoever it is inside the room. We want them to see it where it lies, and then we want to make sure that they know that we found it. And then at that point, there'll be a chance to, hey, okay, continue working. All the things we find from this area at this point, we're going to set in this area or this pile or whatever. We did this recently where we had the beneficiary, the adult child, was actually just sitting at the dining room table, and we were bringing just grocery bags after grocery bags filled with money. And she was sitting there, had a whole counting set up, but she ended up counting, I think it was over $10,000 just while we were doing our job. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That's maybe a silver lining to a cloudy day. How does it work if you find personal photos or personal papers, legal documents? Same way or?
Yeah, really good question. I will say there's another tier to working in an estate and downsizing it. Oftentimes, if there's let's say the mail has gotten out of hand and there's just lots and lots of mail. Yeah. We often recommend in those cases maybe a professional organizer coming in, somebody who has time to sit there and thumb through individual mail, make sure that no bills are being overlooked, or God forbid, maybe even some a 401k account that nobody knew existed. Obviously, these are really important things that our team will not do. So we're not going to literally go through and thumb through documents every single. What we're really good at is kind of what we call spot checking, right? So I'm going to open up the folder and say, okay, this looks like it's just maybe taxes from 1997, right? Not important anymore. Goes into the shred pile. But if we open up something and it's like a deed to a house, right? Like our team is trained on what do deeds look like, what do the passports, social security things, right? Yeah. Anything that's got a bank's name on it. So there's a lot of things that we are very good at spot checking, and we don't really review them. I don't know what they are. I just know that that's important, and we'll set them aside. This is always the case for photo albums. Anytime we find anything that looks like personal photo albums, always set aside. Even when families tell us everything goes, we look through everything, we know everything's, we still do it. And it's a habit of ours because we just simply, you can't ever get those back, right? So we never want to make a mistake in that area. And so anything personal to the family, especially personal items like photos and anything that's got names on it, sometimes like plaques with awards or certificates or people's degrees. We just really like for the family to take one last screening to make sure we're doing what we should do.
Yes, that makes sense. When you were talking about finding the documents, I heard you mention the word shredding, and I was curious, do you offer shredding services? Are you shredding on site? Well, what does that look like?
Yeah, we've got a shredding partner that we use. We actually had to come across this so often that we thought it's just beneficial. We know some really great shredding people in the area that will either, one, depending on the quantity, come to the home and shred on site, or if that's important. Otherwise, we do what's called the off-site secure shredding. So we take the shredding, make sure it's very clearly marked, and then we take it to a secure place where we shred it, all within a facility that's locked and stored. So that's a little bit of a lower cost option for people who maybe just want the old taxes from the 1990s taken away. but they still don't want us to just throw it away.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. And most of my clients are wondering, what's going to happen with their paperwork that they were caretakers of. I was curious. I would imagine you meet all types of clients, whether it's an executor, attorney, or just someone downsizing, maybe trying to help a parent or friend get ready for a move. When those folks give you a call, I would imagine they're asking you about pricing. How do you calculate pricing?
Yeah.
What do you tell people?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And honestly, one of the things that we like to help people understand is their options, because we are what's called a full service junk removal estate cleanout service, right? Meaning we come in and we can handle all of the loading, all of the processing, sorting things from donations to junk. We take care of all of that ourselves. You don't have to get a dumpster and all these things. That is usually the option for people who are overwhelmed. And like, say, a lot of the situations we have with them, and you're also familiar with, is, hey, I'm only in town for 2 days, right? I flew in from California. Mom's passed away. This is her house. I'm only here for 2 days to kind of figure out what the heck is going on, and then I gotta get back to my family and my job.
Yes.
So in those situations, full service is probably always going to be the go-to, because I don't have a month to sit here and load this dumpster slowly. But we do often find people who maybe are looking for options, right? So you have the dumpster option, which is like they can load it themselves, and we don't do dumpsters, but they can load it themselves. It's going to be a lower cost for sure. Then you have the full service option like us, who is going to come in there and help, while you're processing and working through things. We take the stuff out of the house. And then you've got the options that are more like the like liquidators, right? These are people who come in and say, hey, we want to buy the whole house worth of contents. So they're basically looking at a high resale amount. This, as you know, requires the house to have some significantly valued items. So you have to have some stuff in there that's pretty good. And then once that's the case, they'll come in there and essentially clean the house out with the idea that they're going to sell everything. Occasionally that works. Most of the time it doesn't, but we're kind of the mid-range, always going to be a great option. That being said, we charge based off of how much space we fill up in this truck. So if we fill up, it's prorated. If we fill up 2.5 trucks, you'll pay for 2 full trucks and maybe a half of the other. On a general consensus, this is for Northern Virginia anyways, people can expect, for trucks like this, they range anywhere from about $700-800 depending on their size. Some of the trucks are about half as big as ours, up to about $1,200 to fill one up entirely. And that's just good to know in case somebody's ever prospecting, looking around, like how much is it going to fill. There's a lot of variables that can play into it. If it's a high amount of donations, and there's not going to be disposal fees versus maybe even also if it's got like a walk. We've done some states where everything that's come out of the basement and it's up a muddy hill, and those things can play into it. But for the most part, it's one flat rate based off of how much space you're going to fill up in the truck, and you want to make sure you find somebody who's credible coming in there and not just looking to it's pretty. People come in for different reasons. Some people are junk removal companies that come in just because they want to take all the valuables, and so you want to make sure you're working with somebody who, when they do uncover maybe say the lot that's in the basement that was buried under everything, they're not just going to stick that in the truck and say, ooh, can't wait to see what's in there later, It's a really big deal.
I bet. So I would imagine you provide a written estimate before work begins, and people know, and you carry all the right insurances, things like that.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
So now I will throw one cautionary statement in there. Junk removal is a very low barrier to entry. And I say this obviously for Northern Virginia where we are here, but also across the country. There's really no, aside from just, paying your taxes and having a business license for your county, there's really not a lot that you have to do. So I say that because doing due diligence is incredibly important when working with an estate, for a company to help you with an estate, because it is such a big task and it's so easy for somebody to come in and maybe throw out a high number and really have no idea what they're doing. So doing due diligence and making sure that you see some stuff on their website, maybe some reviews where people have worked with them in the estate capacity, to really make sure that you have somebody who can handle what you're going to be throwing out.
I love it. So the due diligence, you sound like a good first call to make for all the clients out there, because you're going to give them the correct information right off the bat and give them some direction that they can use. So I really appreciate that upfrontness.
Yeah, of course. Like Norm, I think we're in the business of making sure, even if it's not us, right, making sure they find the best option to help them for their situations. That's
exactly right. That's one of the things I love working with you, Sam, is you have that great bedside manner. You're an excellent listener. You can hear what the client's trying to accomplish, achieve, and then tailor something to them. I do the same thing. And then if it's not the right fit, well, we can give them direction to somewhere that would be the right fit and maximize their experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think one of the other benefits of working with somebody like you and like us is that we are usually tied to relationships, right? So if you're working with somebody like me who does know you, of course, I'm always going to do what's best for the client's interest, but there's a safety net there. I'm also going to do what's best by you as well and your clients. So always keeping our relationships in mind really means that I have a lot of accountability in the marketplace, and I can't just go out there and recklessly run things, you know? So we're always operating under a very high amount of accountability as well.
You are. I mean, that's the great thing that, we provide to the public. Let me ask you this. Can you maybe share some other ideas around best practices? Or you shared a story earlier, you found the money in the vase. Any takeaways like that help, can describe what you do, help describe to clients in a real world example?
Yeah, so actually that was a really helpful situation, I think. So this is where we're still working hand in hand with like a beneficiary or a survivor, right? So this was a husband, his wife had actually turned their home into a very large collection home. I mean, she had so many collectibles, a lot of clothing. She was buying a lot of vases, and there was a lot of candles. And I mean, just think about anything that you could find: candles, clothing items, tchotchkes. I think everybody kind of knows what tchotchkes are, yeah. And this house was packed full of them. Well, his wife got sick and she ended up passing away in very short notice. And this gentleman was left, and he's in his 70s, left with this entire house. It was about a 2,800 square foot home. And we had estimated somewhere around 13 to 15 of these trucks to come out of there. Now, it was going to be an exhausting task for him to do this on his own. And he really was. I mean, so much so that whenever we would come to do the work, it was so emotionally charged for him that he usually had to excuse himself, and he would go off and go get lunch, or he would try to not be there. But during that process, the fact that we went through a very thorough vetting process with us to make sure we were a good fit. But we had to sit there and start, we set aside piles, and when he would get back, he would spend an hour and a half sitting there just going through all the unique and interesting things that we found. And we developed a very big trust process, but he could only do, about a 2-hour, 3-hour stint at a time before he would kind of say, all right, guys, I've really had a lot. I think it's, we'll call it a day. And so it took us almost a month to go through his project, because that was the pace that he wanted to go through. And what that looked like with our team on site, kind of like you're saying, a direct project, is that we were physically sitting there while he was usually in the kitchen, or like I said, he would excuse himself and come back. And we will have had sorted multiple piles, usually donation, personal family items, and then dispose. And he did want to look at the disposed items before we would throw them in the truck. And then he would have the chance to sit there and make those decisions. And then after about 2.5 hours or so, then we would take off. So it's a very common process, either working directly side by side or while they're, away. Yeah. And then at the end of the project, he was selling the house, and, there was some tears shed. Everybody was very emotional watching that big project come to a completion.
I bet. What I hear you saying is you can tailor make your solutions, your service to the client's needs within reason, and how good that felt to really bring that project home for someone who needed to take their time, and over a month. I mean, as a business owner, that's tricky, but you were able to accommodate that. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. Well, as we wrap up here, Sam, I would love for you to be able to share to the public, how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to follow you? Social media for those folks too that are curious what these places look like.
Yeah, thanks, Norm. So I think first one, Instagram is fun for us because we get a chance to showcase projects there. So I would say Instagram, it's at itsallgood.com. So website, www.itsallgood.com. All of our social media, we're on Facebook, Instagram. We do have a YouTube channel as well, and all of those are just at It's All Good.
I love it, man. I enjoy watching your Instagram photos and seeing these properties as well. Everybody, Sam does a great job. I can definitely recommend him. And regarding real estate, remember, questions, concerns, hallucinations, call Norm.